Welcome, listeners, to the epic conclusion of the Monkey Paw Season 1, Clash at City Hall. It's been a wild ride through the chaotic streets of Briscoetown, filled with mystery, mayhem, and more than a few surprises. Before we dive into this action-packed finale, we want to thank each of you for joining us on this journey. Your support and love for our ragtag heroes mean the world to us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for exclusive updates on Season 2, behind-the-scenes content, and sneak peeks into what's next for Detective Alavius and the crew. A huge shout-out to our incredible sponsor, the Paddy Wagon Food Truck in Columbus, Ohio. Their creativity and community spirit inspired many of Briscoetown's most beloved and bizarre characters. If you're ever in Columbus, make sure to grab a bite from the Paddy Wagon. It's where flavor and inspiration collide. Now, buckle up and get ready for a finale you won't forget. Briscoetown will never be the same.
Down the foggy streets of Briscoetown, the monkey paw wears a furrowed frown, with cockroach by his side so slick, they're out to solve a crime real quick. Mark Pie's orange chicken set the scene, where shadows dance and doubts convene. A taste so sweet yet secrets hide, in Briscoetown where morals slide. Oh, a monkey paw with heart so keen, no mystery too dark or mean. Cockroach at your side unseen, in Briscoetown where truth's routine. Under streetlights dim and yellow hue, they track the clues, a chosen few. Corruption thick, but hope's not gone. For Paw and Roach, they carry on. With every bite of orange delight, they find their way through darkest night. Beloved city, corrupt and bleak, but monkey paws resolve won't break. Oh, monkey paw with heart so keen, no mystery too dark or mean. Cockroach at your side unseen, in Briscoetown where truth's routine.
And now, the Season 1 finale of The Monkey Paw, the thrilling conclusion you've been waiting for. Inside the back room at the break room, Detective Alavius pinched the bridge of his nose, frustration etched across his face. The back room of the break room was cramped and chaotic, with Dr. Brian Watkins pacing nervously while chain-smoking cigarettes. The black bear loomed in the corner, silently flexing his massive calves. Ruler slouched in a chair, Sparks occasionally sputtering from his joints, muttering fragmented sentences like, "Power levels toast, and if I'm dying, I'm suing someone." Watkins paused mid-stride, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I can't believe it," he said, staring at Ruler. "Project X activated, my life's work, and in this condition?" He pointed dramatically at Ruler's glowing chest plate, which flickered like a malfunctioning Christmas tree. "Focus," Alavius snapped. "We need tips. He's crashing. And we've got to stop the most greated MC before Briscoetown turns into a cheese-fueled apocalypse." Watkins gave a grim chuckle, shaking his head. "Tips won't help you now. he said, dragging deeply on his cigarette. "You're chasing your tail. Big Owl's been behind this whole thing from the start. Mad Mike, the juggler, the most grated, they're not just working with him. They're his foot soldiers. The head cheese epidemic is his plan to turn every citizen in Briscoetown into his cheese-addled pawns." Alavius froze. "You're saying Big Owl's the mastermind?" Watkins nodded solemnly. "He shut down Project X because he knew I'd programmed it to prioritize human morality. A robot that can outthink corruption? It was the one thing he couldn't control. That's why he exiled me. But even if I wanted to help you now, I can't. All my equipment for making tips was left at my lab in City Hall." Ruler groaned, his voice cracking. "I can't keep going like this. Doc, you made me. Don't let me die like this, a cheap Marlboro-smoking knockoff of myself." Watkins hesitated, then sighed. "There's one other option," he said, extinguishing his cigarette. "Something I've been working on here in Schittsburg. A new power source. Merit, morally enriched, regenerative, intelligent tech. It doesn't just power androids. It enriches them." "What does that mean?" Alavius asked skeptically. "It means it's better than tips," Watkins said bluntly. "Far more efficient. And I've got a prototype here, powered my latest android creation, Showtime." "Showtime?" Ruler asked weakly. "What kind of name is that?" Watkins smirked. "You're about to find out. Let's go to the bar. She's performing tonight." The break room cabaret night. The break room's dim lighting gave the bar a hazy, dreamlike quality. A low hum of chatter filled the room as Big Moore, the break room's larger-than-life MC, took the stage. Dressed in a sequined gown that somehow outshone the neon beer signs, she raised her arms dramatically. "Ladies and gentlemen, creatures of questionable repute," she bellowed, "prepare yourselves for the one, the only, Showtime." A hush fell over the room as the curtains parted. Showtime stepped onto the stage, an android with a sleek, metallic frame that moved with uncanny grace. Her face was strikingly human, framed by soft, luminous hair that seemed to shimmer with every movement. The crowd erupted in cheers as she launched into a sultry, cabaret-style rendition of Cher's "If I Could Turn Back Time." Even Alavius, who had seen his fair share of bizarre performances, was captivated. Ruler, now slumped at the bar, managed a weak chuckle. All right, she's got stage presence. As Showtime's performance reached its crescendo, Alavius noticed something remarkable. The android's movements weren't robotic, they were almost alive. She winked at the audience, blowing a kiss that sent the room into an uproar. When the performance ended, Showtime curtsied and left the stage. Watkins turned to Ruler, grinning. "Now do you believe me?" "Fine," Ruler muttered. "I'll take your damn merit, but if it turns me into a Broadway star, I'm suing." The merit infusion. Back in the break room, Watkins prepped the merit system, a sleek, glowing capsule the size of a soda can. Ruler eyed it warily as Watkins inserted it into his chest plate. The moment the merit system engaged, Ruler's entire frame jerked upright. His eyes flared bright blue and the sparks ceased immediately. He stood, testing his joints, then flexed his fingers. "Oh man," he said, his voice smooth and steady for the first time. "I feel incredible." He sniffed the air. "Wait, I don't even want a cigarette. What the hell?" "Merit doesn't just power you," Watkins said proudly. "It elevates you. No more glitches, no more crutches." Alavius crossed his arms. "All right, we're impressed. Now how do we stop Big Owl?" "Planning the infiltration." The group huddled together, the Black Bear's imposing frame taking up most of the room. Alavius sketched a crude map of City Hall on a napkin, while the cockroach tapped insistently on his shoulder. "We'll need to sneak in through the maintenance tunnels behind the building," Alavius said. "Ruler, with you running on merit, can you hack the mainframe?" "Easy," Ruler said confidently. "I can disable the cameras and lock down the building." "And then what?" Watkins asked, lighting another cigarette. "Big Owl isn't just going to roll over." The Black Bear cracked his knuckles. "I'll handle Big Owl's goons." "What about Showtime?" Alavius asked. Watkins grinned. "She'll be our distraction. Trust me, no one's looking at cameras when she's performing." The group exchanged determined nods. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was all they had. As they prepared to leave, the faint strains of Fall For You echoed from the bar, Peg-Leg Punk still mangling the lyrics on the karaoke machine. "Let's end this," Alavius said. Big Owl's nest. High above Briscoetown, in the gilded office known as The Nest, Mayor Big Owl reclined in his oversized leather chair, drumming his talon-like fingers against his mahogany desk. The faint hum of the city below barely reached his ears. Chaos was brewing, and it was all going according to plan. Out of the shadows stepped Mad Mike, his sequined jacket sparkling even in the dim light, followed closely by the juggler, his face smeared with smudged clown makeup. Mike gave a theatrical bow before standing tall. "It's all set, Big Owl," he said with a smug grin. "The head cheese pens are flooding the streets. Briscoe Town's going to be one giant rave of chaos by morning." The mayor leaned forward, his golden eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "And the police?" "In our pocket," Mike replied. "They won't lift a finger to stop us. And your precious little detective Alavius? He's out chasing ghosts in Schittsburg. No one's left to stop us." The juggler cackled, spinning a bowling pin in one hand. "Even if the monkey shows his face, Chief Big Chocolate here'll drop him in his tracks. Woot! Woot!" He gestured dramatically as two guards dragged in Chief Hucklebuck. The once proud chief was now a shadow of himself, slumped over, his eyes glazed from the constant exposure to head cheese. Hucklebuck muttered incoherently, barely able to string words together. Big Owl rose from his chair, towering over him. "What do you think, Chief?" he asked mockingly. "Wouldn't you agree that Briscoe Town is ready for a change in leadership?" Hucklebuck groaned, his head lolling to one side. Big Owl smirked. "Exactly what I thought." The room erupted in sinister laughter, the juggler's maniacal cackles echoing louder than the rest. Schittsburg, final preparations. Back in the grime-soaked streets of Schittsburg, Alavius and his crew gathered near the unit, Hucklebuck's monstrous black and gold Mustang. Ruler leaned against the hood, his processors humming with newfound energy thanks to the merit infusion. The cockroach perched proudly on Alavius's shoulder, its antennae twitching as if it were ready to charge into battle. "Doctor." Watkins scratched his head nervously, double-checking a device he had hastily cobbled together, a jamming beacon to disrupt the head cheese production. "All right," Watkins began. "If we can get this into City Hall's mainframe, it should disable their entire distribution system. But we'll need someone to plant it inside the nest." "Sounds risky," Ruler said, blowing on his metal hands as if warming them up. "Guess that's my job." Before Alavius could respond, the break room's doors swung open. Showtime strutted out, still glowing from her electrifying performance, while Peg-Leg Punk trailed behind, chewing on a toothpick. "You're not leaving us out of this," Showtime declared, her voice dripping with dramatic flair. "Briscoe Town deserves better than Big Owl's cheese-flavored tyranny." Peg-Leg Punk crossed his arms, his Winnie the Pooh hat slightly askew. "Yeah, and someone's got to keep you all from screwing this up." Alavius looked around at his ragtag team of misfits, an android, a cockroach, a disgraced scientist, a former mercenary, a punk with questionable headgear, and a cabaret performer. He shook his head. "This might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever done." The black bear stepped closer, his deep voice cutting through the group's banter. "If anyone can do this, it's you." His gaze lingered on Alavius for a moment too long, and Alavius felt a familiar heat rise in his chest. He quickly looked away. "All right, let's move." The crew piled into the unit, barely fitting as they sped off into the rainy night. The streets of Schittsburg blurred past as they headed toward Briscoe Town, the glow of chaos already visible on the horizon. The unit growled low as it rolled to a stop in the shadows near Briscoe Town City Hall. Inside, Detective Alavius was crammed into the driver's seat, his trench coat brushing against Ruler, Peg-Leg Punk, Showtime, and the Black Bear. The cockroach perched confidently on his shoulder, antennae twitching with purpose. The scene before them was pure chaos. An armada of city buses formed a blockade around City Hall, their hulking frames surrounded by the most grated MC bikers revving their engines. Juggalos dressed in neon clown gear milled about, occasionally breaking into fits of aggressive laughter. Near the doors, evil cockroaches scurried about, their eyes glinting with malice as they guarded the stronghold. Ruler, now fully powered on merit, smirked. "All right, let's get this party started." Without waiting for further instructions, he jumped out of the unit and bolted toward the utility door, his robotic legs moving with lightning speed. "Ruler!" Alavius shouted, but the android was already gone. The detective tightened his grip on the steering wheel and looked at the crew. "The rest of you with me. We're going through the front." Peg-Leg Punk snorted. "The front? You're crazy." "Maybe," Olavius said with a grin, "but it's the only way." The blockade. As the unit roared forward, the most graded MC bikers turned their attention to the approaching vehicle. The juggler, standing on a crate in the middle of the chaos, let out a war cry. "Woot! Looks like we've got company, boys." The bikers revved their engines, forming a wall of leather, chains and patch-covered vests. Behind them, the juggalos twirled bowling pins and sprayed streams of Fago into the air, laughing maniacally. The evil cockroaches hissed, clicking their antennae in a synchronized rhythm. Olavius slammed the brakes and stepped out of the unit, his trench coat billowing dramatically in the wind. He surveyed the scene, then turned to his companions. "We're outnumbered." "No kidding," Peg-Leg Punk muttered, adjusting his Winnie the Pooh hat. Olavius ignored him and stepped forward. With a grand, sweeping motion, he raised his hands in his signature monkey paw gesture. His voice boomed across the battlefield. "Briscoe Town, hear me! Your city needs you! Rise up!" For a moment, there was silence. Showtime tilted her head. Was that supposed to do something?" The black bear cracked his knuckles. "I think your street cred's expired, detective." Suddenly, the distant rumble of engines grew louder. From every corner of the city, brightly painted buses rolled into view, their doors sliding open to reveal an army of Mark Pie's employees armed with spatulas, frying pans and food trays. "We got your back, detective," one shouted, brandishing a wok like a battle axe. "Mark Pies forever," yelled another, holding a ladle high. The most grated MC hesitated, their bravado faltering as the Mark Pies employees charged. The battle had begun. The courtyard of City Hall erupted into chaos. Mark Pie's employees clashed with the most grated MC bikers, the clanging of kitchen utensils ringing out like battle cries. The Black Bear roared, tackling 3 bikers at once. His massive arms wrapped around their torsos, slamming them to the ground like rag dolls. "Cheese ain't gonna save you now," he bellowed, hurling one biker into another. Peg-Leg Punk, surprisingly nimble, darted through the chaos, singing a pitchy rendition of "Fall for You" by Secondhand Serenade. His voice, as grating as it was, seemed to disorient his foes. A sentry dropped his weapon and covered his ears, allowing the punk to slip past him unscathed. Showtime, ever the performer, danced gracefully through the battlefield. She twirled and spun, dodging blows while delivering well-placed taps that sent bikers stumbling. Her performance culminated in a flawless pirouette that left a circle of dazed enemies in her wake. Meanwhile, Olavius made his way toward the front doors. He moved swiftly, his focus unyielding as his cockroach companion clicked frantically on his shoulder. A group of evil cockroaches scurried to block his path, but the loyal cockroach leaped from his shoulder, clicking a battle cry. Dozens of neutral cockroaches swarmed to his side, overwhelming their malevolent counterparts in a skittering melee. Inside City Hall. With the blockade distracted, Ruler reached the utility door and quickly hacked into the system. His newly upgraded processors worked flawlessly, disabling the security cameras and unlocking the doors. "All clear," he said over his comms. "You're good to go, detective." Olavius slipped inside, the chaos of the battle fading behind him. The halls of City Hall were eerily quiet, the air thick with tension. He moved swiftly, his footsteps echoing as he ascended the staircase toward the top floor. The dimly lit halls of Briscoe Town City Hall, the chaos of the battle outside now a distant hum. The cockroach perched on his shoulder twitched its antennae, clicking in anticipation. Each step brought him closer to the nest and to Mayor Big Owl. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the corridor, shaking the very walls. From the shadows emerged Fontina III, the most grated MC's 400-pound enforcer. His enormous frame barely fit through the hallway, his greasy leather vest straining against his bulk. In his hand, he wielded a massive wedge of hardened parmesan like a club. "End of the line, Monkey Paw," Fontina growled, his voice like gravel tumbling down a hill. Olavius smirked, reaching into his trench coat. "End of the line for you, big guy." With a dramatic flourish, he pulled out his secret weapon, a leftover box of orange chicken from his last Mark Pie's trip. The aroma wafted through the air, momentarily distracting Fontina. "What the hell is that?" Fontina sneered, taking a cautious step forward. "Portions," Olavius said cryptically, flinging a piece of chicken with precision. The sticky sauce splattered across Fontina's face, temporarily blinding him. Another piece struck his knee, causing him to stumble. Within seconds, the orange chicken bombardment had the hulking enforcer slipping, sliding, and eventually crashing to the floor in a greasy heap. "Portions," Sir Lavius quipped, stepping over Fontina's unconscious body as he continued his ascent. As Olavius climbed the grand staircase toward the nest, a sultry laugh echoed through the air. From the shadows emerged Baby Swiss, her curves accentuated by her form-fitting leather outfit. She leaned provocatively against the banister, her bright red lips curling into a devious smile. "Well, well," she purred, twirling a strand of her platinum hair. "If it isn't Detective Chocolate Drop. You know, you don't have to do this. You and I, we could make a beautiful team." Olavius rolled his eyes. Not interested. "Oh, come on," she said, sauntering closer, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "You're outnumbered, outgunned. Why not let me take care of you?" She reached out to touch his cheek, but Olavius caught her wrist mid-air. His expression hardened. "I'm in love with someone else." Baby Swiss's smile faltered. "What, that bald musclehead? Please." She laughed bitterly, but her confidence wavered as Olavius pushed past her without a second glance. "Sorry, Swiss," he called over his shoulder. "I've got a nest to clean." The double doors to the mayor's office loomed ahead, their gold trim glinting faintly in the light. Olavius pushed them open, stepping into the vast, opulent room known as the nest. Mayor Big Owl sat behind his enormous desk, his talon-like fingers steepled as he regarded the detective with a cold, calculating gaze. Beside him, Mad Mike lounged on a couch, his attention fixed on his laptop. "Just a few seconds left," Mike muttered, his fingers twitching over the keyboard. "Mint condition. 1998 Surge Soda. I can taste victory." Olavius leveled his gaze at the mayor. "It's over, Big Owl. Your head cheese operation is done. My team's already deactivating the production as we speak." Big Owl let out a low, sinister chuckle. "You're more persistent than I gave you credit for, Monkey Paw, but you're too late. This city's already mine." Before Olavius could respond, the sound of squeaky wheels drew his attention. From a side door, Jugs the cat appeared, pushing a wheelchair. Slumped in the chair was Chief Hucklebuck, his usually sharp eyes now glassy and unfocused. "Huck," Olavius breathed, taking a step forward. Jugs grinned, his raspy voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, Chief Big Chocolate's here all right. Just a little under the influence." Big Owl rose from his chair, his golden eyes gleaming with malice. "Chief, show your detective what loyalty really looks like." With a groan, Hucklebuck stood, his movements jerky and unnatural. He stepped toward Olavius, his once imposing figure now hunched and zombie-like. The effects of the head cheese were clear. His mind was gone, leaving only a shell of the man Olavius had admired for so many years. "Huck, it's me," Olavius said softly, his voice breaking. "It's Olavius. Don't do this." But Hucklebuck didn't respond. His fists clenched and he moved into a fighting stance, ready to attack. Olavius's heart sank as he realized the truth. To stop Big Owl, he would have to face his beloved chief. Detective Olavius gasped for air as Hucklebuck's massive, cheese-fueled hands tightened around his throat. The zombified version of the chief had incredible strength, his muscles taut and gleaming with sweat under the nest's golden lighting. Olavius struggled to break free, but Hucklebuck easily overpowered him, pinning him to the polished marble floor. "What's the matter, Monkey Paw?" Mayor Big Owl jeered from his perch behind the desk. "Losing your grip? Looks like loyalty is as fleeting as your wit." Mad Mike cackled from the couch, still glued to his laptop. "This is better than pay-per-view. Oh, 5 seconds left on the auction. Mint Surge, here I come." Hucklebuck twisted Olavius's arms behind his back, forcing the detective into a compromising Greco-Roman wrestling pose. Olavius winced as the sweat from Hucklebuck's glistening biceps dripped onto his face. It was as much psychological torment as it was physical. Big Owl strode to the window, gesturing grandly toward the chaos unfolding below. "Look at them," he said, his voice dripping with smug satisfaction. My most grated MC, the evil roaches, the juggalos, they're taking over the streets. Your precious Mark Pie's employees are being overrun. And your little cabaret star and her sad punk sidekick? Captured. Alavius craned his neck to see out the window. Sure enough, Showtime was being dragged away by two burly bikers, while Peg-Leg Punk, tied up with his own microphone cable, shouted obscenities that no one could hear. The Mark Pie's employees were retreating, their spatulas and woks no match for the cheese-fueled frenzy of the most grated. As Hucklebuck's grip tightened, Alavius's thoughts turned to Ruler. "Where are you?" he whispered hoarsely, panic creeping into his voice. Had Ruler failed to disable the head cheese vapes? Was this really the end? A flash of memory. As the world dimmed, a memory surfaced in Alavius's mind. It was one of his first stakeouts with Hucklebuck, back when he was a rookie. They'd been sitting in Hucklebuck's beloved unit, sharing a stale box of Mark Pie's orange chicken. The chief had leaned back in his seat, staring out at the rainy streets, and said with a smirk, "Rookie, let me tell you something. No one touches my unit." The words echoed in Alavius's mind, and suddenly he knew what he had to do. The touch of redemption. With the last of his strength, Alavius reached up, his hand trembling. Hucklebuck leaned in closer, growling like a feral animal. "I'm sorry, Chief," Alavius croaked, "but this is for your own good." And then, with a boldness born of desperation, Alavius touched Hucklebuck's crotch. The effect was immediate. Hucklebuck froze, his grip loosening as his eyes widened in shock. A flood of memories rushed back to him. The laughter of his 6 identical children, Mama Donda's warm embrace, and Alavius's face, the rookie who had always been at his side through stakeouts, chases, and midnight Mark Pie's runs. "Rookie?" Hucklebuck whispered, his voice trembling. His glassy, cheese-fueled eyes cleared, and he looked down at Alavius with dawning recognition. "What? What have I done?" Alavius coughed and pulled himself upright. "You're back, Chief. You're really back." For a moment, there was silence. Then Alavius, unable to hold back any longer, blurted out, "I love you, Huck. I always have." Hucklebuck stared at him, stunned. I don't know what to say." Before either could speak further, Mad Mike let out a dramatic sigh. "Well, this is awkward. Fine, I give up." He tossed his laptop onto the couch, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Take me to jail or whatever." The surge bottle wasn't even in mint condition. But before they could revel in the moment, Big Owl let out a piercing screech. "Enough of this nonsense." Grabbing Jugs the cat, who hissed and swatted futilely, the mayor activated a set of mechanical wings hidden beneath his suit. With a mighty leap, he shattered the nest's window and took off into the night sky, his wings glinting under the city lights. "This isn't over, Monkey Paw," he called as he disappeared into the distance. The turning tide. At that moment, Ruler's voice crackled through Alavis's earpiece. Head cheese vapes deactivated, the systems down. Below, the battle began to shift. The most grated MC bikers, stripped of their cheese-fueled rage, looked confused and dazed. The juggalos stumbled around aimlessly, their bowling pins clattering uselessly to the ground. The evil roaches, suddenly leaderless, scattered into the shadows. The Mark Pie's employees rallied, their frying pans and spatulas held high as they began to reclaim the streets. Showtime broke free from her captors with a dazzling spin kick, while Peg-Leg Punk, freed from his microphone cable, launched into a victorious rendition of Fall for You. Detective Alavius and Chief Hucklebuck emerged from the ruins of City Hall, their steps slow but purposeful. The battle had left its mark, shattered glass, smouldering debris, and the faint hum of tension still hung in the air. Behind them, Mad Mike shuffled along in cuffs, muttering something about the injustice of losing his Surge soda bid. The streets of Briscoe Town were littered with unconscious bikers, scattered Faygo cans, and spatulas abandoned by victorious Mark Pie's employees. The fight was over, but the scars remained. As they reached the courtyard, Ruler joined them, his glowing eyes scanning the scene with robotic precision. "Head cheese is officially offline," he reported, his voice steady and confident now that merit coursed through his processors. "And the city owes me another pack of cigarettes for this nonsense." Alavius smirked. "Maybe you should quit while you're ahead." "I would," Ruler replied with a grin. "But merit doesn't come with bad habits. You're stuck with a straight-laced robot now." As the group surveyed the wreckage, Pegleg Punk quietly slipped away. He adjusted his Winnie the Pooh hat and ducked into a side alley, casting one last glance at the team. "Schittsburg suits me better anyway," he muttered to himself, vanishing into the shadows. Reunions and commissions. Alavius crouched down as his loyal cockroach, battered and missing an antenna, crawled toward him. "You made it," he said softly, scooping the insect into his palm. "I knew you would." Hucklebuck, standing nearby, placed a hand on Ruler's shoulder. "You've earned your place, Officer Ruler," he said, pulling a gold badge from his pocket and pinning it onto the robot's chest. "Welcome to the Force." Ruler saluted with dramatic flair. "Finally, someone appreciates my talents." As the group shared a rare moment of calm, the sound of an approaching car broke the silence. A bright yellow Uber screeched to a halt nearby, and out spilled Mama Donda, Hucklebuck's formidable wife, followed by his 6 identical children. The kids immediately swarmed Hucklebuck, their matching faces beaming with joy. "Daddy!" they shouted in unison, nearly tackling him to the ground. Mama Donda, her hands on her hips, surveyed the scene with suspicion. "What in the world happened here, Chocolate?" she demanded, her voice a mix of concern and irritation. Alavius stood silently, his heart sinking. The tension between him and Hucklebuck, so close to boiling over, was now firmly suppressed as the family reunited. Hucklebuck shot Alavius a brief, knowing glance before turning to his wife. "Just another day at the office, Donda." The group gathered near the unit, staring out at the city. Fires burned in the distance and sirens wailed faintly in the background. Briscoe Town had survived, but it was far from healed. "We've got a long road ahead," Alavis said quietly. "The mayor's still out there, the police force is a mess, and this city's hanging by a thread." Hucklebuck nodded, his expression grim. "Then we get to work, one step at a time." Hucklebuck clapped Alavis on the shoulder, his grin returning. "What do you say we grab some orange chicken? My treat." Alavis shook his head with a small smile. "Not tonight, Chief. I need a bleach bath." He turned and walked toward the nearest bus stop, his loyal cockroach perched on his shoulder. As the city bus rolled up, he climbed aboard, disappearing into the darkness. In the shadows near City Hall, the black bear leaned against a wall, his face battered from the fight, but his eyes burning with jealousy. He clenched his fists, staring at the departing Alavius. "You're not the only one who can be a hero, Monkey Paw," he muttered. "This isn't over." High above the city, Mayor Big Owl soared through the night sky, Jugs the cat strapped to his chest. The wind whipped around him as he surveyed the city below. "They might have won today," he said, his voice cold and resolute. "But he is still coming for them."
When Briscoe Town is feeling low and shadows stretch so far, that's when you know it's time to call the man, the Monkey Paw. The alleyways at night, a cigarette aglow. Solving crimes with keen insight, that's where our hero goes. Monkey Paw, the city's god, with a heart so firm and strong. In his world of streets and stars, he rights every wrong. A mystery or puzzling case. No challenge is too high. He cracks it with a steady grace, a glint within his eye. Beyond the grit, the glitz, the vice, a soft spot you will find. For Mark Pie's orange chicken slice, he holds a love so kind. Monkey paw, the city's guard, with a heart so firm and strong. In his world of streets and stars, he rights every wrong.